Welcome back, aliens. My name is Davin Reddy, and let's continue with this series on Python. So in the last video we have talked about loops, right? And specifically it was while loop. In this video we'll talk about for loop. So while loop and for loop, they both are loops, right? But then the working is different. In fact, normally when we talk about while loop, it is for certain iterations and it is for certain conditions. So if you remember the while loop, we specify a condition. But that's not the case with for loop, because in for loop, it normally works with sequence. What type of sequence I'm talking about? Think about list, think about tuple, think about string. So what I'm basically talking about is, let's say if you have a list here, and in this list I have certain values. It can be any random value, let's say my name, Naveen 65, and if I say, let's say 2.5. So I have these values. One is string, one is integer, and one is float. Doesn't matter what type of value you have there. I want to print these values. It's very easy actually. You can simply say print, and you can print the value of x. This will work. Okay, let me just run this code, and you can see we got the output. But what if you want to get the output individually? I want to print the values one by one. So in this case, you will be using a for loop. Now how for loop works? So we have to say for, then we have to use a variable. We will say this time I. Now I represents one element of this list at a time. So example, initially I will refer to Naveen, then I will refer to 65, then I will refer to 2.5, one by one. So you have to say for I in x. So one by one it will fetch the value. And again, this is a suite, so you have to use a colon there, and you can write lines of statements. Again, the point is you need to make sure that you use a proper indentation. So I will be printing the value, that's it. I will be printing the value of I, that's it. So there is no iteration. Unlike while here, so we don't initialize the variable, we don't check the condition, and we don't increment or decrement by ourselves. It will be done by for loop itself. This is pretty smart, right? So now if I run this code, you can see we got the values one by one. So yes, if you want to print all the values from a list, use for loop. So for loop normally can be used with sequence, example list which we have worked with now, or a string. Let's say you have a string here. Let's say the x is not a list now, it is a simple string which is Naveen. And then I want to print the value of this one by one. So one way is you can use an array, right? So we can use a while loop here as well. And then you can use that square bracket, you can specify index values. Otherwise, if you run this code, you can see this is how your for loop works. So what it will do, the value of I first will have n, and then it will have a. Let me just do that again, the thing which we are doing from a long time, which is debug. So I click and say debug. Let's trace it. So if I trace, you can see the value of x is Naveen, and the value of I is n now. Again, if I repeat, if I say next iteration, you can see the value of I will become a, and the next iteration the value of I becomes v, the value of I becomes I, and then value of I becomes n. So that's Naveen for you. And we are printing all the values, right? So if I see the console, you got all the values one by one. Right? Of course, I forgot to do one more. So you got Naveen there. So that's the advantage of using for loop. Okay, can I use for loop with something else? Yes, we can. Example, we can also use this with tuple, or we can use with set. But then we have one more. Example, you can specify the list here itself, okay? Instead of having a different variable, you can have your list here. Even that works. Yeah, so you have 2, 6, Paul, and if I run this code, you can see we got one by one. So you can have your list there itself. So syntax is you mention for, then you say I in, and then you mention the collection or the sequence. It can be a list, it can be a string, everything works. In fact, what if I want to print the values from 1 to 10? Because of course, right, we can do that. We can do that in while loop. Can we do it here? And the answer is yes. For that, we have to use a range. If you remember, in sequence, we have talked about range. In range, if you specify 10, what it means start from 0 and end at 9. So in total, we have 10 values. And if I run this code, you can see we got 0 to 9. So we got 0 and then it ends at 9. So in total, we have 10 values. So we can use range as well. And using this range, you can perform certain operations. In fact, in range, you can actually start from different value. Let's say I don't want to print from 0 to 10. I want to print from, let's say, 11 to 20. In that case, you will say, hey, I want to start from 11. I want to end at 20. So we want 20 included, right? So we'll say 21. And every iteration will have 1. So it will be one by one iteration. So if I say run, so you can see we got values from 11 to 20. So you have to mention 3 things: starting point, ending point, and the iteration. It will be difference between 1 or 2. Example, if I say this is 2 in this case, So look at the values now. It will be different values, 11, 13, 15, 17 and 19. So there's a difference of 2. If I say 5, you can see we got 11 and 16, that's it. So this is how you specify the gap there. What if you want to print in reverse? Let's try. Can I start with 20 and if I end at 11? If I run this code, it will give you, it is giving you nothing because it always goes in ascending order. We have to mention go in reverse order. So you have to say -1. So it will start from 20 and then 19, 18 and it works in that way. So you can see we got from 20 to 12. Now there's a problem. You have to make sure that it goes till 11, right? So you have to, because the value 11 is excluded. So we have to use 10 so that it will include 11. Let's run this again. And it works. So this is how you can use range and this is how you can use for loop. Now in fact we can do one more thing. So you can see we have a range of 20 and then I'm printing the value of I. In fact I will start with 1. So I want from 1 to 20. So I will make sure it is 21 so that it will include 20. And the iteration would be 1, or even if you don't mention that, that's fine. If I print the value, you can see it is 1 to 20. What I want is, so every time the value which is divisible by 5, it should not get printed. Okay, so I want that. So I want to print only when the value is not divisible by 5. So we can use if inside for, right? So we can do that. So we can have if condition inside for if you want to have that condition. So you can say if I mod 5 is equal to 0, don't print. Otherwise you can print. Okay, but how can I do that? So what we can do is we can say not equal to. So print only when it's not equal to, right? So we can do that. So print only when it is not equal to. So if I run this code, if I say run, oh, we got an error because I missed something. And I'm also using brackets because I have this habit of working on Java. So anyway, it's optional in Python. So let's run this. And you can see we got 1 and we got 4. You can see we don't have 5 there because we are checking for the condition. So yes, we can write if inside a for. So since we had if inside for, we can also have for inside a for, which is a nested for loop. But then we'll not be doing that here. In the next video, we'll play with some patterns. We'll try to draw some patterns and we'll try to understand how do we do that. So in the next video, it will be fun. So I hope you're enjoying the series. Let me know in the comment section and do click the like button if you're enjoying it. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.